Assalamu alaikum. First year MBBS, Group A, roll number 1 to 40. Today we have class on nervous system. We have demonstration. We are taking this demonstration online and this you will get on LMS recorded lecture. Okay. So nervous system, you all know that this is the most important system of the body, which is the chief controlling and coordinating system of body. It controls and regulates all voluntary and involuntary activities. You all know that we have voluntary activity, that is that activity which can control by ourselves. Okay, this is also regulated by the higher center, which is the nervous system or the brain and spinal cord. While the involuntary activities, what are the involuntary activities? Like respiration, we breathe in and breathe out, inspiration and expiration. These are not controlled by yourself. Okay, these are involuntary activity. Beating of the heart. So activity of the heart and lungs controlled by brain. These are involuntary activities. So keep in mind that nervous system is controlling and coordinating system. It will control and coordinate the body also and controls the voluntary and involuntary activities. Okay. Now moving on, we will know at the end of the lecture that we have excitable cells and non-excitable cells, cells of the nervous system. Okay, and also we will classify the neurons, we will classify the excitable cells and also non-excitable cells, and we will see the parts of the brain, various parts of the brain in detail. Now there are two types of the neurons in the nervous system. Okay, or two types of the cells in the nervous system, neurons and neuroglia. Excitable, what is the meaning of excitable? These cells can respond to chemicals. Okay, potassium, magnesium, they will go in and out, and these cells respond by electrical stimulation. So it means that neurons are excitable. While neuroglia are those types of the cells which gives the support. Neuroglia or glial cells, they are also called glial cells. They give support to the nervous system. They are supporting neurons, or you can say these are supporting cells of the nervous system. Okay, so they are called non-excitable cells. Chemical composition or the mechanism behind their controlling is not excitable. They can't be excited. It means that chemical stimulation is not helping these neuroglia. While neurons can be excitable, fine. So we have two types of the cells in the nervous system. We have neurons, we have neuroglia. Okay, moving on, we will further know about the neurons, their properties, physiological properties. First of all, they are excitable. They are they have conductivity. Conductivity means they can conduct one message from one side to the other side. Okay, they can conduct message from one side to the other side. They can take message that if you touch the hot spoon, then immediately you will remove your hand from that spoon. Why? Because your brain is sensing when you are touching the spoon which is hot, in nanoseconds message will transmit to the brain that this thing can harm you, this hot spoon can harm you, and you will remove your hand. So this activity or this property of neuron is called conductivity. It can conduct the message, and also it can generate the response. You generate the response because you removed your hand. Okay, so there are three properties of neurons. Number one, and neurons are the most abundant type of the cells in the nervous system. They are excitable cells. They have property of excitability. They can conduct the message and they can also generate the response. What are the parts of the neurons? From intermediate level, you all learn about the parts of the neurons. That neurons have three parts because neurons are the structural and functional unit of the nervous system. These the neurons are actually the cells of the nervous systems. Okay, so if a cell, you can see the cell to cell, what are the parts of the cell? Cell has cell membrane, nucleus, cytoplasm. These are the parts of the cell. And neuron, which is a typical cell in the nervous system, what are the parts of this typical type of cells? These typical type of cell has soma or cell body. They have processes. Process, they have dendrites and axons. Processes are actually extensions. They are protoplasmic extensions. So there are two types, there are two parts of the neuron. Number one is soma or cell body, which is also called perikaryon. Okay, soma and cell body are also called perikaryon. And the dendrites and axon, these are the processes. These two are the processes. Dendrites are short process, axon are long process. We will see the difference between these two. Now moving on, soma or cell body, soma and processes. What is the soma? Soma is the actually the cell body. Soma is the word giving to the cell body. Cell body, what is the function of the cell body? This is the cell body. Okay, so a typical cell has cell membrane and neuron also has cell membrane. These are the cell membranes from where processes arises. These processes near the cell body, which are short, are known as dendrites. Cell body has cytoplasm, has organelles like endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria. This is the cell body which has endoplasmic reticulum and mitochondria organelles. Also it has central nucleus. Okay, so this one is cell body of the neuron or the cell. These are the processes arising directly from the cell body. These are known as dendrites, which are short in length. Okay, and the long extension which arises from the cell body, which will go toward another neuron or the parts of the body, other parts of the body, these are called axons. So dendrites are the protoplasmic extension. These two dendrites and axon both are called protoplasmic extensions. What is the protoplasm? The liquid inside the cell body is called the protoplasm or cytoplasm. So extensions of these protoplasm are dendrites and axons. Axon is long and dendrites are short. Dendrites receive signals from other neurons. These are the dendrites. They receive signals. Okay? They receive signals from other neurons. While axon, what axon will do? Axon will transmit the information away from the cell body. So generation of impulses or message is taken place in cytoplasm or the cell body. The neurons generate impulses in the cell body while it will transmit it to other neurons with the help of axon, and it receives signals. To generate the impulse, it should receive the signals. Okay, so it will receive the signals from dendrites. So how many parts of the neuron are there? There are three parts of the neuron. In short, we have soma or cell body, which will generate the neuron or neuronal signals or neuronal impulses. We have dendrites, which are the protoplasmic extensions. These are short. They will receive the information or signals from other neurons. We have axon. An axon is long and it will transmit the information away from the cell body. Now, cell body, when we say that cell body is like what? Is like the cell, whole cell. It will contain the nucleus. Cell body is the major part of the neuron. Okay, it has the central nucleus, this one. It has central nucleus and also it has organelles in the cytoplasm. Okay, so most important organelles which are present in the cytoplasm of the neuron is Nissl granule. Nissl granules are found in the cytoplasm. These are very important in the synthesis of protein. Yes, so neuron, which is the excitable cell, which is the conductive, which is responsible for conductivity of the message. It can generate proteins, and it can synthesize protein, and also it can transport the protein with the help of Nissl bodies. Nissl bodies are the unique feature of the neuron. Other cells in the body, they don't have Nissl granules, right? Nissl granules are the typical, most important feature of neurons. They have Nissl granules for the synthesis of protein. Okay, these proteins are very important for transmission, for conductivity and excitability of the neuron. But you should know that distinguishing feature, how you can differentiate neuron, because neuron is also a structural functional unit of nervous system. How you can differentiate it from the muscle cell? How can you differentiate from the osteocyte? How can you differentiate from the chondrocytes? Chondrocytes are the cell of the cartilage. Osteocytes are the cells of the bone. You can differentiate them with the help of Nissl granule, with the presence of Nissl granules. The Nissl granules are the organelles present in the cytoplasm of neurons, and they can generate, they can transport, they can form, synthesize the protein. Okay. Now, processes. Two types of processes, axons and dendrites. We know their names. Now, we should know the difference between axon and dendrites, which will be asked in the exam. The nerves resemble the electricity wires. Okay, nerves means the axon and the dendrites. These are the processes. They will form the nerves of the axon. Yes, they are actually the electricity wire, means they can transmit. Electricity wire will transmit the current. Okay, and the message from one side to the other side will be transmit with the help of these axons. So these are like the wires. Like the electric current, they will flow the current through the wires, and the axon will transmit what they transmit. They transmit the impulse. So they should be of two types, sensory and motor. These axons, these processes should be of two types. One sensory, other is motor. Yes, they are like the wires. They have also the covering, the sheet, which is known as myelin. Like the wires, electric wire, they have plastic covering outside. The axon, which can transmit the information, also have the covering outside, which is known as the myelin sheet. So, from examination point of view, this question is very important, that what is the difference between axon and dendrite? Your assessment for the processes, your assessment on the processes of the neuron will be generated like write the two difference or tell the three differences between axon and dendrites. So axon is usually we have one axon in the neuron, while dendrites, they are multiple. As you see in the previous picture, axons are thin, long processes. They have uniform, smooth thickness and surface. While dendrites, they are short, they are multiple processes. Their thickness diminishes as they divide or as they move from the soma. Okay, first of all, dendrites are thick when they arises from the soma because they are protoplasmic extension, and when they go further away, their thickness become Decrease. They are decreasing in size. They will taper. At the end, they will taper. In the beginning, they have thick diameter, while at the end they become taper and they become pointed and their thickness is diminishes. Their thickness diminishes. They branches also. They have also these dendrites also have branch. Okay, they can produce branches from both the side or from one side, and they have spiny projections. Axons are fewer at right angle to the axons. Okay, branches of the axon are fewer. First of all, they have long process. Okay, or one axon is like that, and some of the axon, if they have branch, then they will form the branch at the right angle, that is the 90 degree with the other. Okay, dendrites branch profusely and given off at acute angle, while dendrites, when they give branch, they will form the acute angle. Okay, they are not forming the 90-degree angle, they are forming the acute angle. Okay, acute means less than 90 degree. Axon contains neurofibrils or and no nasal granules. Keep in mind, these nasal granules and neurofibrils are the fibers, okay, which are made up of protein, and they are present in the dendrites. Both are present in the dendrite. Nasal granules, you know that they are the very important structure present in the cytoplasm, also cytoplasm or the soma of the neuron, and they are present in the dendrites. In processes, they are present in the dendrite. They are responsible for protein synthesis and protein transport. Okay, so they are present in dendrite. They are not present in axon, right? Now, forms the efferent component. What is the efferent? What is the difference between efferent and afferent? Afferent means which will receive the signal. So dendrite is the one which will receive the signal. So it is the afferent component. Okay, and while the component which will give the message away from the soma is the efferent component. Okay, and this efferent component is actually the axon. This efferent component is actually the axon of the neuron. Okay, so in summary, what are the differences? What are the three main differences of axon and dendrite? Axon is usually one, while the dendrites are multiple. They have long processes. Axons are long processes of uniform thickness, while they are short and multiple processes. Okay, the axons do not contain neurofibrils and nasal granules, while the dendrites they contain neurofibrils and nasal granules. Axons are the efferent component, while dendrites are the afferent component of the impulse. Impulse is a message which is then generated by the brain. Now, so in the beginning of the slides, if we see the recap, or we will summarize these slides in three questions. What is the difference between neuron and neuroglia? So can you repeat? Can you do this assignment? That what is the difference between neuron and neuroglia? What are the parts of typical neuron? What is the difference between axon and dendrites? Take out your pen and a paper. I will give you 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so you can write down the answer of these questions. That what is the difference between neuron and neuroglia? Just a repetition. Okay, one line, just write one line answers of these. What are the parts of typical neuron? We will repeat it. What is the difference between axon and dendrites? Okay, and after 5 minutes we will proceed further. Okay, hope you did the assignment. You have been. Okay, moving forward. Now, classify the neurons. Classification of neurons. How we will do the classification of the neuron? Classification of the neuron will be done on the basis of functional and structural basis. Okay, on a structural basis we will divide the neuron, or we will classify the neuron, and on basis of function we also classify the neuron, right? So first of all, structural classification. Structure means from histological point of view or from anatomical point of view. From structure, you will see the neuron under microscope and you will classify the neuron like unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron, multipolar neuron, and axonic neuron. Okay, so these are the types of neurons: unipolar, bipolar, multipolar neurons, which are done on the basis of structure. Fine. Poles means if they have one pole, bipolar maybe two pole, and multipolar, as their name indicate, that they have more than two poles, so they are called multipolar. Fine. Now functional basis, we have sensory neurons. Sensory neurons are actually the afferent neurons. Okay, what is the meaning of sensory or the afferent neurons? So these neurons, they will get, they will transmit the nerves from the periphery, skin, mucous membrane, muscles, tendons, and joints to the central nervous system. Okay, they will take the information from the periphery, from skin, muscles, mucous membrane, glands, and they will go toward the brain or toward the CNS. Okay, toward the CNS they are going, so they are called what? They are called afferent neurons. While interneurons are interconnecting, as their name indicate, they are interconnecting, they make the connection between sensory and motor. Okay, and what are the motor neurons? Motor neurons are going away. Sensory neurons are going toward the CNS, while motor neurons are going away from the CNS. Okay, so information is taken from the skin, from the mucous membrane, from periphery. Their information is taken, okay, from periphery toward the CNS by the afferent neuron, while the information from the brain, they are going toward the periphery, from periphery to CNS. From periphery to CNS, information is going through the sensory neuron or the afferent neuron. From periphery toward the CNS, information is going through the sensory neuron, while motor neuron from CNS to the periphery, they are going from CNS to the periphery and they are responsible for motor activity. Okay, and we have interneurons which will make connection between sensory and motor neuron. So sensory and motor neurons information is made with the help of interneuron. The interconnection or connection between sensory and motor neuron is done by the interneuron or association or associated neurons. So sensory neurons, they are responsible for information, generation of information from periphery to the brain. They are responsible to transmit the information from periphery toward the brain. So in periphery, if we see the skin is the peripheral organ, or the mucous membrane or the gland, they should have receptors. Okay, from periphery means skin. Okay, from skin we have some receptors in the skin which will transmit, which will feel, receives We have on skin, we have what? We have receptors. Okay, so receptors will receive the information, and from skin, from receptors, this information will go toward the CNS. This is the mechanism of sensory neurons or afferent neuron. While motor neuron, this is opposite. From CNS, impulse will be generated or message will be generated, okay, and it will give to the skin with the help of motor neuron. Okay, moving on. Functional classification. With the help of diagram, we are showing you the functional classification, that is the sensory neuron, the afferent neuron, and the motor neuron. Sensory neurons, we see that sensory neurons in the skin of the finger, it has receptors. Okay, receptors are present in the skin of the hand. By touching the hot spoon, you will sense the hotness with the help of these receptors. Okay, and it will generate the message which will go to the brain. These are the sensory neurons or the afferent neurons. Okay, now the information will send to the brain, and this will take in nanosecond. This message will generate in nanosecond, very short time. Okay, so generation of impulses will be take place. First of all, receptors which are present in the skin, they will give information to the neurons. These neurons are the sensory neurons. Okay, these sensory neurons now go to the interneurons. Yes, they will go toward the interneurons or association neurons. These interneurons are also present in the brain. Okay, so interneurons, from sensory neurons, information will be sent to the interneurons, and from interneurons, the information will send toward the motor neuron. This motor neuron will go to the periphery. Periphery means it will go to the skin again. It will go to the muscle. It will go to the gland. Yes, effector organs. It will go to the muscle and gland and will produce the response. What is the response? When you touch the hot spoon, you will take out in nanosecond. You will feel the hot spoon, okay, and you will feel the hotness, and after that you will remove your hand. Fine, and your brain will click in nanosecond that this spoon is hot. Your muscle will perform the function which is the voluntary function. This function is voluntary. Muscles will contract and you will remove your hand. So how we classify the neurons on functional basis? We will divide the neurons in three groups. One is sensory, one is interneuron, and other is third one is motor neuron. And these three neurons, sensory, interneuron, and motor neuron, are the part of impulse, are the part of the message. One message is generated, is received on the one end, which is the sensory end. Message is received. Interneuron transmit the message. They are transmitting the message just, and motor neurons, they are the one which will generate the response on by the help of muscles and gland. Okay, fine. Moving on. Yeah, these three types of the neurons: sensory neurons, we have interneurons, and we have motor neurons. Okay, these three neurons are interconnected on the functional basis. Okay, now moving on, what we have now. Sensory neurons, they will carry sensory impulse. Okay, sensory neurons, they will carry sensory impulse. These sensory neurons structurally are different from the motor neuron. We are doing functional classification, so just you should remember that sensory neurons, carry impulse from sensory organs. Okay, they will carry information from sensory organs and will go to the central nervous system, which is the higher center. These are called sensory neurons. Okay, they can sense signals. And what type of signals or what type of impulses they will carry? They will carry sensory signals or sensory impulses from the sensory organs. And what, where these sensory organs are present? These sensory organs are present in skin, in mucous membrane, in, okay, in the periphery. In short, in the periphery of the body, these sensory organs are present. Skin is the organ, is the largest organ. Sensory organs has receptors. Skin, we have various receptors to sense the sensory impulse. These sensory neurons sense the sensory impulse which are present in the receptors, and these are present are actually representing the periphery of the body. While the motor neurons, a neuron that carry motor impulse. Okay, motor impulse means the response from which is generated from the central nervous system. This response, which is generated from the central nervous system, will go to the effectors. And what are the effectors? Muscles and gland. Yes, effectors are muscles and gland, because response will produce from muscles and gland, voluntary activity or involuntary activity. Gland will produce secretion. Okay, so with the help of secretion, with the help of the chemical, one response is generated in the body. These glands, the formation of the hormones, maybe, okay, these, when they are forming the hormone, when they are forming the chemical, they are producing the response in the body with the help of their secretion. And muscles are voluntary organs. Skeletal, all skeletal muscles are voluntary. Okay, so with the help of the muscle contraction, voluntary act will be produced, the response will be produced. So effectors are muscles and gland. Motor impulse, which is generated from the central nervous system. The impulse is generated within the central nervous system. It will carry further with the help of motor neurons, and it will go toward the effectors. And what are the effectors? Muscles and gland. These are the effectors. They will perform the function, they will perform the response. Okay, so sensory and motor, you have a clear concept of, and you can write the difference between two, sensory and motor, that what is the difference between sensory neuron and the motor neurons. So we will see these the differences. If in the exam, in the assessment, if we ask about what is the difference between sensory and motor neurons, write 3 points or tell us the 3 points. So you should have a strong grip upon the difference of sensory and motor neuron. Okay, what is the sensory neuron? Sensory neuron that carry sensory impulse. Okay, sensory neurons are those that carry impulse, sensory impulse from sensory organ to the central nervous system, right? These are the sensory neurons, while motor neurons carry impulse from central nervous system to the effectors, right? From sensory organs to the central nervous system are the sensory neurons, while from central nervous system to the effectors, these are the motor neurons. Okay, sensory neurons, they are on the structural basis, they are unipolar, while the motor neurons on the structural basis, they are the multipolar. Sensory neurons, they have short axons, while motor neuron, they have long axon. Why so? Why they have short axon? Why sensory neurons have short axon? Because they have to receive messages. Okay, and the motor neurons, they have long axons because they have to transmit the message. In long way, they will transform the message. They will transmit the message from central nervous system toward the muscles and gland. And muscles and gland are present away from the body. So they have long axon. They are transmitting. They are transmitting the signals while they are receiving the signals. When they are receiving the signals, they are more in number and also they are short. While the process which will transmit the information, it has long. It will move toward a long distance. It will move toward the distance. Okay, there are average 10 million sensory neurons, while 500,000 of motor neurons in our body. Okay. So sensory neurons are present in eyes, in skin, ears, nose. These are all the periphery of the body. Okay, these are the periphery of the body. These are actually the senses: vision sense, touch, sense of hearing, sense of taste. These are actually the sensory organs. Okay, from the periphery, which are present in the periphery of the body, and they will transmit the senses. What are the senses? Spatial senses: smell, taste, vision, hearing, touch. These are the senses of the body, and they will be transmitted from the sensory neuron with the help of sensory neuron. Okay. While the motor neurons, which is present in the muscle and the gland. Okay, while the motor neurons are present in the muscle and the gland. Now, what is the location? They are located in the ventral root ganglia, motor neurons, and the sensory neurons are present in the dorsal root ganglia. Okay, so if we will ask that what are the difference between sensory neuron and motor neurons, you can differentiate between them, and you can write any 3 points. Okay, that first of all, which is very important, is their definition, and after that divide them on a structural basis, unipolar and multipolar. Now discuss about the processes. Their processes: one have axon, and which is long axon, one has short axon, one has long axon. And not necessary that you will define that you will give the number, but also give the location. This one is the location. They are present in muscle gland, they have the skin, eye and ears and tongue and nose. They are present sensory. So okay, now moving on. It's structural classification. All we have done about the functional classification in the previous slide. We will classify according to functional classification. We classify them as sensory, interneuron and motor neuron. And classification of the neurons, we will divide them on the basis according to the number of their processes. Okay, according to the number of their processes. What does it mean? Right, we will divide them in unipolar, pseudopolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Okay, if the neuron, see the picture, if the neuron only one process. Okay, if the neuron has only one process that extends from the cell, that extends from the cell body, this one is the cell body, and only from only one side the process arises. From one side the process arises. Okay, this one is the unipolar neuron. This one is the unipolar neuron. If the cell body gives process from only one side, if the cell body gives process from one side, so these neurons are called, what these neurons are called? Unipolar. Okay, they are the primary afferents spinals and some cranial nerves in vertebrates. Okay, they are present actually in spinals in primary afferents. Okay, and in they are the cranial nerves of the vertebrates in like us. Most common neuron in the central nervous system of invertebrates. Okay, so these are the primary or primitive neurons which are present also in invertebrates. Invertebrates in which backbones are not present. These are the animals. Okay, you classify these animals: vertebrates and invertebrates. Okay, we are the vertebrates. Humans are the vertebrates. So invertebrates have the unipolar neurons. Unipolar neurons are those neurons in which processes generate from the one side of the cell body. Okay, processes generated from the one side of the cell body. These are the unipolar neurons. These are most abundant. Unipolar neurons are most abundant in invertebrates. Okay, and invertebrates, they are present in cranial nerves. Okay, now pseudopolar. Pseudopolar, a unipolar neuron. This one is actually a unipolar neuron. It appears that it has one process. From cell body, one process arises. See in the picture. from the cell body, one process arises, but after that this process will split. Okay, it appears that it has one neuron, one structure, one process, but after forming a process or arising a process from the cell body, it will split and divide into two. Okay, so these are the pseudopolar neurons. They are not unipolar and they are also not bipolar. Okay, in between unipolar and bipolar, a special neuron is present which is known as pseudopolar. These are very important neurons because these are present in dorsal root ganglia of spinal nerves. Yes, these pseudo-unipolar are present in dorsal root ganglia of spinal nerves. Spinal nerves, these nerves arises from the spinal cord. They have one ganglia. They have one swelling where all the nerves are collected. Okay, so we all neurons are collected. So these are the spinal nerves. In these spinal nerves, there is a ganglia which is known as dorsal root ganglia, and in dorsal root ganglia there is a neuron which is known as pseudopolar neuron. From cell body, process arises, single process arises, which will split or divide into two. So these type of neurons are called pseudopolar neurons. They are in between unipolar and bipolar neuron. Fine. Now, third type, we are dividing the neuron. Keep in mind, we are dividing the neurons on basis of structure, and we are doing this structural classification on the basis of their processes. Number of processes. One process unipolar, two process bipolar. Okay, and apparently they are looking single, but they have two processes. They are pseudopolar, in between unipolar and bipolar. So they have two processes arising from the cell body. They are called bipolar neurons. They have one dendrite, one process is dendrite, okay, and the other is axon. One is dendrite, then other is axon. Okay, so they have two processes. One is dendrite, other is axon. They are arises directly from the cell body. Okay, and what is the location? These bipolar neurons are present in rod and cones of retina. Okay, so in retina is present in the eye. It is the third layer of the eye. Okay, so rod and cones are the special sensory vision cells. These are responsible for vision. One is working in dark, another is working in bright light. These rod and cone cells of the retina are actually the bipolar neurons. So see, the neurons which are responsible to these neurons, bipolar neurons are responsible for vision. They are also present, bipolar neurons is also present in olfactory system. Olfactory system means olfaction, olfactory represent the smell. The sense of smell is also are also containing the neurons which are the bipolar. The sense of smell and vision, they are the neurons and they are the bipolar neurons. Rod and cones, they have spatial neurons inside and they are the bipolar neurons. Okay. Other type of the neurons, the multipolar neurons. Multipoles means various poles, various processes. Like unipolar, they have only one single process. Bipolar, they have two processes. And more than two processes means they have multipoles. Multipolar means multi-processes. So multi-processes are present in where multi-processes are present whole of the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Multi extensions, you can say that multi processes are present. From soma arises dendrites. There are various processes arises which are short in length, they are called dendrites, while from the body one single long process arises which is known as the axon. Okay, so these are the multipolar neurons which have more than one process, more than two processes. Okay, two processes have bipolar, one process are unipolar, and apparently looking that they have one process but is split into two, they are pseudopolar. Remember the location. Unipolar are present in invertebrates majorly. If they are present in vertebrates, they are present in cranial nerves. Okay. Now pseudopolar are present in dorsal root ganglia of spinal nerves, right? Bipolar are present in rod and cones of retina and also olfactory system. While multipolar, they are the majority of the neurons. Majority of the neurons human being have. What are these? These are the multipolar neurons. Okay. 90% of the brain and spinal cord contain multipolar neurons. CNS or PNS. You can say CNS, central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, peripheral nervous system, which are the nerves. Okay. So CNS and PNS or brain and spinal cord 90% contain what type of neurons? Multipolar neurons. Right? Okay. You can see another picture. Yes, this also the second picture will also give you concept about the structural classification. Structural classification, you can see that the unipolar has only one pole. Okay, one dendrite, one axon. Yeah, this one is one process. Okay, unipolar. While bipolar from the cell body, one is dendrite, other is axon. Okay, and multipolar. We will see the multipolar that we have various processes. Okay, various processes are present where in the multipolar axon in the multipolar neuron, while the pseudopolar cell body will give one extension and this extension will divide in this extension, this process will divide in two and it will split in two processes. Okay, apparently it has one process, and if this process will divide in two, it is called, these neurons are called pseudo unipolar. Okay, these are called pseudo unipolar. Fine. So moving on, we did functional classification. We classify the neurons on functional basis and also the structural basis. Structural basis, first of all, first the classification is on the number of the processes. Okay, one process, two process, and multiple processes. So unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar neurons. While this classification also is a structural classification, but we will divide the structural classification according to the size of the process. Okay, now we are dividing the process on the basis of its size. It's mean some have long axon and some have short or no axon. Okay, so there are two types of the neurons, Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2. Golgi type 1 has long axon, long projection. Okay, so these are called Golgi type 1 neurons, while the axon, if the axon is short, like in interneurons, they are called Golgi type 2 neurons. Right? So, recap of the slides. Again, we have one assessment, small assessment. Within 5 minutes, you can write about the structural classification of the neurons and the functional classification of the neurons. Okay. And functional classification of the neurons. What are the functional classification? How can you divide the neurons in functional classification? Yes. How many types they are? What are the functional classifications of sensory neurons, interneurons, and motor neurons? Okay. Sensory neurons we have interneurons, and we have motor neurons. Fine. You will write one line or two line answer. What are the structural classification? Structural classification of the neurons mean you will divide the axon, you will divide the neuron on the basis of the number and size. If you will divide the size on the basis of the size, so long axon and short axon, Golgi type 1 and Golgi type 2 classification. And if you will divide the axon on the basis of number, you will have unipolar, pseudo unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar neurons. Right? Moving on, we have neuroglia. neuroglial cells are the supporting cells, are the connective tissue, they are actually the connective tissue of the brain and spinal cord. So neuroglial cells, they are present, neuroglial cells or the glial cells, they are present in the parenchyma of brain and spinal cord. Okay, if they will line the internal cavities, that is the ventricle of the brains, which contain the CSF or the liquid which lubricate the central nervous system. They are called the ependymal cells. So they give the supports in the ventricles. Okay, internal lining. We have capsular or satellite cells. Okay, they are also neurons which are present in autonomic ganglia, and they are sensory neurons. Schwann cells. Schwann cells form the sheet of the axon. Okay. So supporting cells, actually the supporting cells or the connective tissue of the nervous system are called neuroglial cells. Are called the neuroglial cells. Neuroglial cells can be divided on the basis of the size. Macroglia means they are big, and microglia, they divide from the origin from the mesodermal cells but they have small in size. They are small in size. Okay. Neuroglial cells on the basis of location, we will divide them in four categories. And in assessment, we will ask what are the neuroglial cells of central nervous system. This one is most common question which is asked. What are the neuroglial cells? Name the neuroglial cells of the central nervous system. So you will give the answer. They are oligodendrocytes, ependymal cells, microglia cells, and astrocytes. Okay, in the central nervous system. And in peripheral nervous system, what are the neuroglial cells? We have Schwann cells, we have satellite cells. Okay, so in assessment, for assessment point of view, this slide is very important. What are the neuroglial cells present in the name? The neuroglial cells present in the CNS. Name the neuroglial cells present in the CNS, and name the neuroglial cells present in the PNS, peripheral nervous system. Okay, moving on. We will also ask in exam that are the location of these cells. Okay, what is the location of these cells and structure of one or two. Give the structure. Astrocytes. Astrocyte, as the name indicate, they are star shaped. Okay, astrocytes are star shaped. They maintain the blood brain barrier, so they are present in the blood brain barrier. What is the location of astrocytes? Blood brain, BBB, yes, blood brain barrier is the location of astrocytes. What is the shape? The shape of astrocyte is star shape. Fine. Now ependymal cells. Ependymal cells, they are lining the ventricles. They are lining the inside of brain and spinal cord. They are responsible for the production of CSF. CSF is a liquid, cerebrospinal fluid, which is present in brain and spinal cord. So they are responsible for the production of this fluid. Okay, they are lining the ventricles. Now, oligodendrocytes. Oligodendrocytes are actually the cells which will form the myelin sheath. Myelin sheath is very important, which is lining the axon. It will transmit the message very quickly. Without myelin, the impulse transmission is very sluggish. So oligodendrocytes are forming the myelin sheath of the central nervous system. Myelin sheath, keep in mind that myelin sheath is present both in central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. But central nervous system myelin sheath will be formed by which type of neuroglial cells? Oligodendrocytes. Oligodendrocytes will form the myelin sheath in CNS, in central nervous system. Other type of the neuroglial cells present in central nervous systems are microglia. Microglia are micro, as their name indicate, they are small in size. Okay, and there are many Okay, they are responsible for immune system. They will maintain immunity in brain. How? They will remove the dead cells and pathogens. They will remove the dead cells and pathogens in phagocytes by phagocytosis. So, neuroglial cells, make them simple. In the central nervous system, neuroglial cells are four. What are these? Astrocytes, ependymal cells, oligodendrocytes, and microglia cells. These microglia cells are what? They are phagocytes, important in immune system. They will remove the dead cells and pathogens. Oligodendrocytes, they will form the myelin sheath. Ependymal cells, they are responsible for production of CSF. They will line the internal cavities of CS and ventricles. They line the internal of brain and form the lining of ventricles of brain. Astrocytes, there are many. They will form BBB, that is blood-brain barrier, right? So, four neuroglial cells present in the central nervous system, while two are present in the peripheral nervous system. Satellite. Satellite cells, okay, as their name indicate, they are like satellite, okay, and they regulate the neurotransmitters, okay. They are surrounding, like satellites surrounding the earth, surround the neuron cell bodies. These satellite cells surround the neuron cell body, okay, and regulate the neurotransmitters level. Schwann cells, they are also responsible for myelin sheath. For formation of myelin sheath, they are also responsible, but they will myelinate or form the myelin sheath in peripheral nervous system. Okay. So the cells or the neuroglial cells which are forming myelin sheath in peripheral nervous system, they are Schwann cells. While the myelin sheath is formed in central nervous system by the oligodendrocytes. Very important, very important point. Myelin sheath form in central nervous system by oligodendrocytes. Myelin sheath form in peripheral nervous system is formed by Schwann cells. Okay, you have to remember this point. First of all, from assessment point of view, we will ask the different types of neuroglia. Neuroglia in the central nervous system, neuroglia in the peripheral nervous system. After that, we will ask the function. What are the function of astrocytes, ependymal cells, oligodendrocytes, microglia in central nervous system? What function they perform in single line? You will give the answer. Now, satellite cells and Schwann cells. We will ask what are the satellite cells, what are the Schwann cells. We also ask that the myelination formed in the peripheral nervous system. What are the neuroglia? The neuroglia which is responsible for myelination in peripheral nervous system. And the neuroglia which will form the myelination in the central nervous system. So in peripheral nervous system, Schwann cells are responsible for making the myelin sheath. While in central nervous system, oligodendrocytes are the one which will form the myelin sheath. Okay, moving on. Now just summarize the slide. We will see the ependymal cells in the ventricle. What are the ventricles? These are the ventricle actually. I want to show you the picture. On the picture you can see the inside the brain there are cavities which are filled with the cerebrospinal fluid for lubrication. So the lining of these ventricles is formed by the ependymal cell, right? And blood-brain barrier, yeah. Blood-brain barrier, what are the component of blood-brain barrier? Another question, important question. So neuroglial cells, astrocytes. From neuroglial cells, the astrocytes will form the blood-brain barrier. Okay, these are the barrier present in the brain to transmit the various drugs which will give like anesthesia. They will cross this barrier. Okay, while some of the pathogens will not cross the barrier, it will give the protection. So how they will form, how this blood-brain barrier is formed, if we will ask that what are the component of these, you will said that capillary endothelium without fenestration. Number one is capillary, which is very inside, okay, blood capillary. It is very minute structure present central, Okay, so capillary endothelium. Endothelium are the cells of the capillary without fenestration. It has tight junction, okay, but not fenestration. It's not a gap. There is no gap in the capillary endothelium. Then we have the basement membrane. Outside the capillary endothelial cells, we have basement membrane. Okay, right? This is the basement membrane of endothelium, right? Then we have end fields. These are the end fields of astrocytes. One astrocyte is here, okay, other is here, this one, and third one is here. These are the three astrocytes which are covering the capillary basement membrane and capillary endothelium, right? So what are the component of blood-brain barrier? Capillary endothelium, first of all, and basement membrane of endothelium. And number three is the feet end or the feet of the astrocytes covering the capillary wall. So these are the astrocytes which are forming blood-brain barrier. And also one question also I covered here, that what are the components of blood-brain barrier. Now recap. What are the different types of neuroglial cells? Yes, you can name them. In peripheral nervous system and central nervous system, you can name the neuroglial cells present in both of them. Central nervous system, there are four types, and peripheral nervous system, there are two types. What are the neuroglia which are responsible for myelination in peripheral nervous system? Schwann cells. And the neuroglia which are responsible for myelination in CNS are the oligodendrocytes. Okay, now we have, moving on, synaptic transmission. Okay, the meeting point between a neuron means a neuron and neuron, two neurons, when connect with each other, they will form a synapse. Okay, meeting point. Two friends are meeting with each other. Two neurons are meeting with each other. When these neurons are meeting with each other, they will form a connection, and this connection is called synapse. Okay, this connection is called synapse. Synapse can be between neurons and skeletal muscle. Okay, and it will called a neuromuscular junction. Synapse can be chemical or electrical. Okay, synapse can be chemical or electrical. The synapse between two neurons or between a neuron and a muscle. If there is a connection between neuron and a muscle, this is called neuromuscular junction, myoneural junction. This can be a chemical or the electrical impulse. This synapse will may be a chemical or the electrical synapse. What does it mean? We will see in detail. When there is connection between two neurons, one is called presynaptic neuron, other is called postsynaptic neuron. Okay, the gap between the presynaptic and postsynaptic neuron is called synaptic gap. Okay, the gap between these two, presynaptic and postsynaptic neuron, is called synaptic gap. One neuron will produce the information. One information will produce in presynaptic neuron, other postsynaptic neuron. Okay, so nerve impulse will be generated in one axon terminal. Okay, we have axon terminal. One, there is a synapse. You can see there is a presynaptic neuron, and other is, this one is postsynaptic neuron. Neurotransmitters are present in between. These are the chemical actually. Okay, and when there is going of impulse from one side to the other side, there is electrical stimulation also take place. Electrical means the chemical, potassium, calcium, magnesium, they will also change in the neurotransmitter in the synaptic gap. Okay, so this one is known as chemical synapse. They are electrical and chemical. Chemical means neurotransmitters are involved. Okay, and electrical means ions are involved. So this is one. This one is the synapse, and the types of the synapse. Synapse can be of presynaptic. Okay, synapse can be presynaptic or postsynaptic. Okay, between the two, and synapse can be between two dendrites. Okay, between axon and dendrites, the exodendritic synapse. Okay, and it can be exosomic, means between the soma and the axon there is a connection, and the connection between axon and soma is called exosomatic synapse. Okay, exosomatic synapse is a connection between axon and soma. Okay, exodendritic means between axon and dendrite. If there's a connection between axon and dendrite, this is called exodendritic. Okay, and between axon, if there is connection, this is called exoaxonic. Okay, so these are the types of the synapse. That synapse is taking place between the dendrites and axon, between the soma and axon, between the axon and axon. Okay, but one is presynaptic and other is postsynaptic. One is presynaptic neuron, okay, and other is postsynaptic neuron. Fine. Okay. Now overview of nervous system. Okay, we will in nervous system part 1 or this and these slides in this demonstration we will see the nervous system, how the nervous system is divided, what are the gross structures, what are the most important structures. Okay, and in nervous system 2 we will see the further division of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Fine. So overview of the nervous system we will see, or this is your from intermediate level. You all know the anatomical subdivision of the of the nervous system. That nervous system has brain, has spinal cord. Okay, so central nervous system has brain and spinal cord. While peripheral nervous system it contains the nerves, all the nerves. Okay, emerging from the brain and spinal cord. Right. Now, cell body, soma, neurons, yes, they are the gray matter and nuclei in the CNS and glia in the PNS. Cell processes actually are axons. Cell processes are tracks in the CNS and nerves in the PNS. Keep in mind, keep in mind that these axons and dendrites they are the actual parts of the central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, and how these axons, these are the axons, right, the long process of the neuron, they form nerves in the peripheral nervous system. In the peripheral nervous system they will form the nerves, right, while in the central nervous system they will form the tracts. Tracks are the same, only the location is different. Okay, tracks are the axons and nerves are also axons. Tracks are present in central nervous system. Nerves are present in peripheral nervous system. Right now, soma or the body form gray matter. Okay, brain is divided into white and gray matter. Gray matter and the nuclei are formed in the CNS by the cell body, while ganglia in the PNS, peripheral nervous system, is formed by the cell body. Okay, make it easy, make it simple. These processes, axon, these are the nerves in the peripheral nervous system and tracks in the central nervous system. Okay, while cell body or the soma, they are the nuclei in the CNS, gray matter, and ganglia in the peripheral nervous system. Right now, subdivisions of central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. First of all, we have nervous system which we will divide the nervous system into two: central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system divide into brain and spinal cord, right? While peripheral nervous system divided into sensory division and motor division. Okay. In sensory division, we divide it further. This sensory division is divided in further visceral sensory and somatic sensory. Okay, viscera means the organs, viscera, stomach, intestine, like lungs, heart. Okay, these are the viscera. So sensory division divided into visceral and also and then into somatic sensory. Okay, somatic means skin, muscles. Okay, motor division, motor we also divide into visceral and somatic, right? While motor Visceral motor division divide further into two: sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. Okay, so subdivision of nervous system, we have central nervous system and peripheral, central brain and spinal cord, motor, sensory division and motor division, sensory divided into visceral and somatic, and motor also divided into visceral and somatic, while visceral further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which will form the autonomic nervous system. This one is autonomic nervous system. Okay. We will do it in detail. First of all, central nervous system. In central nervous system, we have brain, okay, and spinal cord. Brain is protected in cranium, and spinal cord is protected in vertebral column. Okay, these two are also protected and surrounded. Okay, and CNS and the central nervous system, brain and spinal cord is lubricated with the help of the fluid which is known as cerebrospinal fluid. This CNS, the central nervous system, divided into gray matter and white matter. Okay, the CNS is composed of gray matter and white matter. The brain is semi-spherical. We all know that. It is very complex. Our brain is very complex. It is the central control and integration organ of the body. Okay. The average weight is 1.5 kg and is average about 1600 gram in male and female 1450 gram in female. These are just stats of the brain. These are not important for assessment point of view, but you should know that estimated 100 billion neurons are present. Okay, and anatomically it is divided into three: forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Okay, in three regions it is divided. The brain is divided. So forebrain, as its name indicate, the major portion, forebrain, okay, which is present in front; midbrain, which is present in between, okay, midbrain; and hindbrain, which is the post brain. Okay, fore in front and hind in back. Back side is hindbrain, and in between these forebrain and hindbrain there is the midbrain, which is present in the center. Okay, the brain is lined by membrane, and these membranes are called meninges. These are the meninges, the covering of brain. The brain contain folds, okay, and these folds are called gyri. Brain contain folds, and folds are called gyri. So the lining of the brain is known as meninges. They have folds which are known as gyri and grooves which are called sulci. Okay, grooves which are called sulci. The human brain is composed of neurons, glial cells and blood vessels. Okay, these are the basic structure. You should know the gyri, the difference between gyri and sulci grooves. Okay, it also consists of four internal interconnected chambers. Yes, interconnected chambers. How many? They are four, and these are four ventricles. Okay, so now you are going in depth of nervous system. You are doing the central nervous system, in which when you see the brain, there is a covering, and this covering is called meninges. There are folds in the brain. These folds are called gyri. There are grooves. These grooves are called sulci. There are also chambers, interconnected chambers, which are called ventricles, and these ventricles contain what? These ventricles contain CSF. Yes, lubrication, cerebrospinal fluid they have. Okay, now just see the difference between the gyri and sulci. The fold is called this one. The fold is called gyri, while the groove, this one is called sulcus. One groove is here, one groove is here. Okay, so between two sulci there is a gyri. Okay, there between two sulci, between two grooves, there is a fold, and this fold is present where? In the brain. You can see various folds in the brain. That is why, because of these folds, brain has higher center. Brain is called the integrated center. Okay, why? Because of these folds. Billions, trillions of cells are present, billions of neurons are present between these folds and transmitting knowledge, information, memory it contains, and how these are present in the brain because of these folds. We have memory, we have sensory and motor actions performed in the brain because of these folds, and these folds are called gyri. Okay, folds are called gyri, groups are called sulci. Between the group there is a fold. Okay, so you can see the difference. You can define the gyrus and sulci in the brain. What are the sulci? What are the gyri present in the brain? Okay, and also the covering. Yes, meninges. From the outside, in if we see the skull from the outside, we will see the skin. Okay, we will see the skull. Skull is the bone. Okay, skin, skull. After that, when you come inside, you will see the meninges covering. Okay, covering starts from the dura mater from outside. Then we have arachnoid. Okay, first layer is dura mater. Other second layer is arachnoid matter. Okay, this arachnoid. This is all arachnoid. It is double layer. You can see. Okay, and the third layer, which dips down and form the or line the sulci of the brain. This layer, the third one, which is present, which is lining the brain. Okay, it is present inside, very deep. It will covering the sulci and gyri. This lining is called pia mater. Okay, so there are three layers: dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia mater. Which one is the deepest one? Is the pia mater. Which layers covers the sulci and gyri? Which of the meningeal layer covers the sulci and gyri? So this one is pia mater. The layer is pia mater. If we will ask in the assessment that name the meningeal layer which will lines the gyri and sulci which invest in the brain, you will said that it is the pia mater. And the name the meningeal layer which is present between pia and dura, this one is arachnoid matter. Which one is outermost? The outermost meningeal layer is the dura mater. Okay, so you see all three layers, all three meninges. Name the meninges. What are these? Dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia mater. Fine. Now spinal cord. What is a spinal cord? Elongated cylindrical structure. Fine. Elongated cylindrical structure is spinal cord. Rope-like bundle of nervous system. It has rope-like bundle of nervous system. In adults, it averages about 1.8 centimeter thick and 45 centimeter long. Fine. It begins as a continuation of medulla, means the last part of the brain is medulla, and after medulla, the extension, downward extension is spinal cord. So from medulla, this extend what spinal cord extend from medulla to the downward and from the foramen magnum, right? Okay, from medulla it will extend downward in the vertebral column. Okay, three principal functions of spinal cord. What are these? Locomotion, reflexes, and conduction. As it is a part of the central nervous system, so it will conduct the information, it will conduct the message. Okay, locomotion, it will help in the movement, and also it will help in the reflexes. The cord give rise to 31 pairs. Cord means the spinal cord. It will give rise to 31 pairs of spinal nerves. spinal nerves arises in the form of pair. Spinal nerves arises in the form of pairs from spinal cord. And how many are these? These are 31. 31 pairs of spinal nerves arises from the spinal cord. Okay, spinal nerve in a segment. So spinal nerves are present, emerges from the segment. What are the segment of the spinal cord? Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. Okay, spinal cord is further divided into segments which are cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral, and each of the segment has nerves. From each of the segment arises the spinal nerves. And in total, the spinal nerves arising from all the segments are 31. Okay, from all the segments, 31 pairs of spinal nerves arises, right? So, what are the segments of the spinal nerves? From where spinal cord begins? Spinal cord begins from medulla, from the foramen magnum, at the level of foramen magnum. Okay, and how many segments of spinal cord? Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. Okay, and how many pairs of spinal nerves it will give? 31 pairs of spinal nerves it will give. Spinal cord will give. Okay, so this is the spinal cord. In the picture, you can see from the brain, from the medulla oblongata, spinal cord starts. It will go downward, cylindrical tube it will form, and it will run in the vertebrae. These are the vertebrae. Spinal cord is running in the vertebrae, okay, and divided into segments. Cervical segments, thoracic segments, lumbar segment, and sacral segment. Okay, and spinal nerves arises. Seven spinal nerves arises from the cervical. Okay, T1 to T12 arises from the thoracic. Five lumbar and five sacral. In total, 31. Okay, now peripheral nervous system, which comprises of not only the nerves. Okay, that is the portion of the nervous system outside the nervous system. Okay, the PNS is the peripheral nervous system present on the periphery. Peripheral nervous system means present on the periphery. Periphery, in the periphery, the part of the nervous system is present are the nerves. Means in whole body you can see the nerves in the periphery of the body. Okay, in hands, in feet, lower limb, upper limb, there are nerves present which are emerging from central nervous system, but they are forming peripheral nervous system actually. Okay, because they are outside the CNS, outside the central nervous system. Okay, and so what are the parts of peripheral nervous system? If a question arises, if we will ask a question that what are the parts of peripheral nervous system, you can say sensory receptors. Within the sensory organs, neurons, nerve, ganglia, plexus, all are the parts of nervous system, peripheral nervous system, because all are present in the periphery of the body, not only the nerves, not only the, but also the ganglia. Okay, the plexus, brachial plexus, cervical plexus, they are also present in the body. They are also present in the periphery of the body. So they are the part of peripheral nervous system. The ganglia, plexus, sensory organ, neurons, nerves, they are all present in the periphery of the body. The nerves of the peripheral nervous system are classified as cranial nerves or spinal nerves. Okay, the nerves in the peripheral nervous system are further classified, further divided into cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Means nerve arises from the brain and nerves arises from the spinal cord. Okay, all nerves of the body are the peripheral nervous system, right? All nerves of the body are the peripheral nervous system. Okay, and these nerves can arise from the brain and can arise from the spinal cord. Okay, from brain and from spinal cord. So the nerves arises from the spinal cord are the spinal nerves. The nerve arises from the brain are the cranial nerves, right? Okay, now you have to do a quiz which is very important from the assessment point of view. Most of the questions are done. Number one is what is the difference between dendrites? You can write four difference between dendrites and axon. And what is the difference between sensory and motor neurons? You already done this question, that what are the difference between sensory and motor neuron. Okay, names the neurons according to structure and uh, structure classification and also their location. We have done this question also. Write the names of neuroglial cells of CNS and PNS. We did this question also in detail. What are the components of blood-brain barrier? Yes, this question is very important. So you should write in 3 points that what are the components of blood-brain barrier. I will revise at this time. That what are the components of blood-brain barrier? Number one, capillary endothelium. Number two, basement membrane of capillary of endothelium. Basement membrane of capillary you can write, basement membrane of capillary endothelium you can write. Okay, second component. Third one are feet end of the astrocytes. Major is the astrocytes, the feet end of the astrocytes. We want to know that what type, what are the neuroglia involved in blood brain barrier, in forming blood brain barrier. Actually we are asking the name of the oligodendrocytes, of the neuroglial cells, supporting cells. Sorry, not the oligodendrocytes, the neuroglial cells. The neuroglial cells which are important for forming the blood-brain barrier. The neuroglial cells which are forming or which are important in formation of myelin sheet, CNS and PNS in central nervous system and peripheral nervous system, right? So add one question in this question. Add one question that the myelination or the myelin sheet responsible in CNS and PNS. Okay, so myelin sheet responsible or formation in CNS and PNS. Okay, so CNS neuroglia, name the neuroglia cells responsible for myelin sheet. Okay, neuroglial cells, name the neuroglial cells important information of myelin sheet in CNS and PNS. Okay, write one question or add one question in the end. Okay, thank you class. We have done the assignment. We have done the central nervous system 1 in detail. Okay, and I will upload this recorded lecture on your LMS portal. Also, I will upload a quiz assignment. Okay, for you guys, which is the summary actually, or the questions. You will give me detailed answers of these questions in the assignment. Okay, I will upload the assignment and I will upload the lecture also. Okay, thank you class.